OTB in 10, fantasy banter in 10 or 20 minutes or less, and we begin with Wristbands. 2 weeks ago, Wristbands at 5-1, close to the league lead in points. It looked like there was nothing that was going to stop this squad from capturing their first ever Fairways Division title. What a difference 2 weeks makes. WB now in the thick of it, in both the playoff chase as well as in the divisional chase, with a key game against Waverman this week that could make things very interesting. They've lost the tight end 2, George Kittle, to injury. They have some bye week issues to attend to in this coming week. So Garcia, the question is this an aberration? Is this big deal, little deal, no deal? Where do you see WB entering week 9?
I think there's a saying that we go by, and that it basically is, he is who he is, and that is WB. The same guy who is carrying 3 quarterbacks, which I think is pretty much the underlining theme there of why WB is who he is. Because why are you carrying 3 quarterbacks? When we dive deeper past the 3 quarterback situation, if you really look at it, the guy doesn't have a complete team. I think you've been on the bandwagon where I've always been like, I wouldn't get too excited. Mostly because it's Chris, but then you go into what actually is concrete, the data. If you look at it, he's had maybe teams and games where 1 or 2 players had these high volume point totals. In fact, I think Tyler Lockett had 3 points less total than you as a team. So that goes to show you that it is a major aberration of what he's doing out there. I think yourself being behind, me being out of it now. I think Waverman is in our division also, so he's had a ring of bad luck. So this is more just luck for anything for WB than actually having a good team. Again, it goes back to the fact that why is he carrying 3 quarterbacks? It's just wasting roster space. The object of the game is not to carry 3 quarterbacks, it's to carry 1 and then maybe have someone to fall back on when you need it for a bye week. So the fact that I'm losing to this guy, although I didn't really lose to him because I beat him in the first week, that's something to be said for that. That should give me like an extra, 3 wins. But at the end, he is who he is. And I never was on the bandwagon. You've been all about it. You've been gushing about it, which I think is kind of weird. So really, it should be you to be explaining what is wrong with WB.
Well, perfect segue, and I'll tell you, because you're right. For about a month ago, I started to jump on this bandwagon. And I said that I thought WB was the best team in OTB, and I thought that WB had the best draft in OTB. Now, WB could attest to this. I also texted him 4 or 5 weeks ago as I was going through my lineup transformation, as I was looking at flipping my squad after some of the assumptions I had made early in the year proved to be not quite as true as I'd hoped. What I had said to WB was this: I think you have the best drafted team in OTB. That said, there are some weak points that you could easily shore up with your depth. If you look at his lineup and the receivers particularly that he had, as well as the value he had in a tight end position, one of the rare tight ends that is flippable for additional depth in OTB or in fantasy football. I said to him, this is an opportunity for you to look at flipping some of this depth. Probably that depth will be at its highest point because you know that some of these things won't be what we think they are, 4 weeks from now. And there is, a couple of easily correctable weak spots. Your RB2 being Darrell Henderson. That is, a potential weak spot. We know what the Rams offense is. We know that it changes week to week. We know that Cam Akers was hurt at that point, and we said, hey, there is an opportunity for you to convert some of this depth into starting value, because there are 2 parts to a fantasy football championship season. There's part 1, which is the draft, which is important. But then there's part 2, which is everything after it. Your waiver wire pickups, your trades, your free agent acquisitions. Look, I had the most points by 1,000,000 last year, right? I was in the Super Bowl. I played in a Super Bowl without Dalvin Cook, James Conner, Chris Carson. So it doesn't really matter how good your team is up until a certain point. Once you get to that point, and this is still something we haven't seen yet for sure with WB, can you respond to bye week challenge issues, to underperforming issues, to injuries? This is the next step for him. We'll find out in the coming weeks if he's able to, but you're right. I've been on him, but we knew things would change. We'll see what happens. And like you said, the next few weeks will be telling. And that's the face. I'll quickly put up WB's schedule because I think this is interesting too. I know we're over, but I just want to put this up. I forgot to put it up. So, one of the things I talked about in the email and we'll talk about on the show is, the schedule is purposefully designed to be backloaded, right? So it favors opportunities for entertainment and drama later in the year because of the division opponents you play down the stretch. So 4 of 5 opponents for WB for the last down this stretch, they are against divisional opponents. So it's all in front of WB. All right, so, he can win this division by just beating the teams that are in front of him. He doesn't have to worry about anything else. The trick will be, can he win the division with the teams that are in front of him that could also make things tough for him with losses?
You know what actually might help WB is making a trade, although I know he won't because he is very bad at those in terms of what he offers. But the guy behind me, could look good in his uniform and could get him over the hump.
Well, perfect segue. Perfect segue because we move into OTB trade conversation. And so we are now about a week and a half from the trade deadline. It is November 13th. I don't remember what I told you last week, but as you know, my math is usually wrong. And it is not this week, it is the following week. So a week from Friday is the trade deadline. Garcia, what do you see on the horizon? Do you predict activity? Do you think there will be teams on the move? If so, which teams should be on the move as we get close to a late season push in 2020?
Well, as you know, Dave, I called you yesterday, or I texted you Sunday night and said, hey, I got a question about trades. Are we allowed to trade for future draft picks? Which you immediately responded yes, which then, the phone started to get moving, so to speak, and where I started making calls to my personnel to say, all right, who can we disband from and get something in return. You, of course, had the caveat that you make the final call when it comes to these trades, particularly when it comes to player for future draft picks. You noted something in 2016 where I think somebody was trying to dump Antonio Brown for I don't know what, but you didn't like the idea. You came in to save the day, as some people say. Others will say your authoritarian ways kind of get in the way of fun. I see myself basically out of everything now, and one of the things that I'm trying to do is make it as entertaining as possible for me. And one way to do that is really look at the team that I have and see, they're not really that bad. I just had a run of bad luck. I've had injuries, and then of course I just don't put up enough points thanks to my second round pick, and some other guys who just can't put up more than 5-6 points on the running back side. And I look at my talent and I say, I've got guys here that a lot of teams who are trying to get over the hump, like Alex with Shipwreck. You've got Waverman, who certainly is not afraid to make any deals. Regulators had a string of bad luck lately. He's obviously wants to get back on the top. WB might be one. Then there's PTT, who's kind of in that crosshair of he's got Michael Thomas, who's done nothing for him. What can he get? He's done well, 4-4. What can get him into the playoff run and give him a solidified opportunity? So I've got guys. I've got this guy behind me right here, Devontae Adams. The man is a machine. 5 TDs in the last 2 games. He was out for 3 weeks. I think they just kind of were too soft on him and wouldn't let him play, even though he was ready to go in week 3. You got Kareem Hunt, who I know hasn't had a great week last week with 9 points, but before that he was putting up double digits. Brian over at Regulators might want to take him back. And then you also got, who else? I got Justin Jackson. I got Chase Claypool.
Feels like a speed. This is like a platform for your lineup at this point.
Players, man, who are available for draft picks. And I will say this. I am not taking anything less than a first rounder for Devontae Adams for next year. I'm willing to hear other offers. I've already put out feelers to some teams. They know I'm interested. There's just one team I will not trade with, and that's you.
That's right. Yep.
And that's by just, loyalty and pride and everything else that goes in between our relationship and partnership and friendship. So, I think 11 other teams have an opportunity here to get themselves to the top. So that goes to Aaron, that goes to David, that goes to Rick, all the guys out there who may or may not watch the show, even includes Chris. You've got my number. Make me an offer. I'm actually going to put the deadline to this Saturday for me because I don't want to have it where all of a sudden Sunday comes and somebody gets injured and I'm screwed. So I'm trying to get rid of guys. I put myself at a deadline for this Saturday, which I think you want the guy now because let's face it, it's a playoff run. The last thing you want to do is wait another week.
Yeah, I'll say this, and you pointed out to it, and this is something that look, if league owners want to talk in the offseason on the ballot box, they certainly can, because one of the things I've said and I've been consistent about since we've started is, we don't have guidelines on trades. I brought it up a few weeks ago. We don't have a guideline on when you need to trade a player during a week so that player becomes eligible for the week. We've pushed through some trades on Friday nights and Saturday nights before. We've also talked about trading draft picks. We've talked about trading draft picks during the draft and before the draft, and in my opinion, because we've never regulated it, that means that draft picks are always on the table to be traded, and that includes in the future. You brought it up. We've had instances before where we've had to maybe, provide some stricter regulation on future draft pick trades. And the reason is this. As a commissioner, I believe that you should never really get in the way of player-for-player trades because, for the most part, everyone's going to have a different perception of value. You'll be amazed to me when a trade goes through. I will literally get 2 people that text me that someone was fleeced, and then 2 other people will text me that the other person was fleeced. So no one ever sees eye to eye on trade value. So why even try really to regulate that? That said, draft pick trades in the future, that is a little different because if one team is basically incentivized to wipe their roster clean because they don't think they have a chance this year, and the other team wants to win, of course, that might mean that you might get a Devontae Adams for a 5th round pick, which we just can't have, right? So there's an anti-competitive nature of future draft pick trades that I have to kind of be in the middle of. That said, it is something that is on the docket, so teams that are interested in making that final push, they can certainly look at future draft picks to get players and pieces. But like I said, I'm a little stricter on how those pass. So just remember that. But again, trade deadline is next Saturday, even though Garcia's is this Saturday. The rest of the league is next Friday. So make sure that you get that those conversations in ahead of time. And we don't have a lot of time. We're going to move over to the playoff picture, which is an interesting one. And I say this every year. And we're going to put it up in a second, but I want to say this. I said it in the email. This actually is the most dramatic, the tightest race we've ever had. And I know you hear that every year. How could it possibly be true? It is true. Last year, we had 4 teams with at least 6 wins at this point. This year, only 1 team. Last year, there was not 1 team within about 50 points of the number 6 seed. This year, there are 4 teams. It is tighter than it's ever been. I will put it up now. We'll start, of course, with record. And again, bear with me as we talk through some of these scenarios. So Sweet Home Chicago is your current number 1 seed. WB holding the number 2 seed. But as you can see, with all of that red in this graphic, there are a lot of vulnerable points. If you look at the next team up, so to speak. Regulators and Shipwreck is in the 4 seed right now. Waverman and All Aboard the Baby Bus, after another big week, has vaulted in to the 6th seed. The in the hunt part is correct. Gronk TDs, Phil the Thrill, and Sidebar. In the hunt for record right now, we're defining as within 1 game of a playoff spot. Those are your 3 teams that are currently within 1 game of your playoff spot at 4 and 4. Let's move to the points race. For All Aboard the Baby Bus, now at your 6th seed, there are 4 teams within about 50 points. But remember, All Aboard the Baby Bus is also 4 and 4. And so could also move into other spots depending on what happens. For instance, they play Regulators this week. So depending on the outcome of that game, we may see the points race switch again. A lot of things to potentially dissect here. I've got other thoughts, but I'll pause. Garcia, what gives you the most interest or intrigue heading into week number 9?
I think the numbers prior to the trade that you made, the 2 trades you made, you were averaging like 80-something points a week. I think that's when I calculated all the numbers with your 60-pointers, your 40-something pointers, those under 80 and 90. You were at 80 points a week. That's kind of what it was coming out to. Now that you made the trade, you, in the last 2 weeks, I think you're averaging like 115, 119 points. You now up yourselves to 4 and 4. This is a trend that is obviously concerning for a lot of teams who don't like you, which I would say is much of the league, where they need to realize the fact that now you are in the playoff conversation, where 3 weeks ago, you and I were not in a playoff conversation. Now I'm alone on this boat, and you are just swimming away to the island to be rescued. And you were rescued. You were given a life raft. I was left on the boat, and I'll remember that. But again, you are the one that people need to be worried about, because you hoodwinked a lot of people when it came to these trades and the talk that you had and this whole feeling of, I don't have this, I don't have that, oh, it's me. So there's that concern. PTT needs to be worried about it. He should be annoyed. So he should probably find a way to make a trade to get ahead of you on that one. Same with WB. All aboard the baby bus, man. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And we should be taking notes, because I screen grabbed a two players combined for 70-something points. I don't think we were like halfway through the day yet. He's got Dalvin Cook, who I think missed 2 weeks, if that, and came back ready to put up almost 40 points. And then he's got Pat Mahomes putting up some 30 points. Granted, they're not going to face the Jets every week, but when you got a 1-2 combination there, you're looking pretty good. And he always finds a way to play those numbers to his advantage, especially when he plays Eagles together against the Giants or Eagles against the Dallas Cowboys, which will face him again, I believe. So he's got that hanging in his balance. I still like Waverman's chances. The point totals just keep going up and up and up. And I think Shipwreck needs to do something, because I'm afraid he's going to be on the outside looking in. The way you're going, and I think it's going to be a challenge for him, because when I look at his lineup, it's nice, it's pretty, but it just doesn't pack that punch. Like a Devontae Adams would probably pack that punch.
Well, yeah, 3 points actually. I'll say 3 points, 3 quick points. One is that it is interesting that the 2 games I think that are most intriguing this week could shape this playoff picture dramatically. So you've got Shipwreck, who is the actual number 4 seed, unlike the graphic said, the actual number 4 seed, against Sweet Home Chicago. And the winner of that game very well may shape the division implications for the rest of the year. Meanwhile, we had talked about it at the beginning of the show. Waverman versus Wristbands is the biggest game, I think, of the week from that perspective, in that a win by Waverman not only catapults them back into the playoff race, it also makes it so that the winner of the Sidebar Phil the Thrill game is right back in that division race as well. A Wristbands win and everything else kind of resets, and we're back to where we are, and the world's back in order, and this was just a minor blip. So those are 2 huge games. The second one, as it relates to All Aboard the Baby Bus and Shipwreck and lineup transformations and everything else, you are right in that, and I was talking about this to Shipwreck a couple of days ago, you do need those kind of win-the-week guys, even if it's just 1 or 2, which All Aboard the Baby Bus has, and Shipwreck is still struggling to find. Maybe Antonio Brown becomes that person, we're not sure, or potentially someone that's already on his lineup breaks out. But right now, what All Aboard the Baby Bus has, that some other teams don't, is the Patrick Mahomes and the Dalvin Cooks, the guys that can win you weeks on their weeks alone. All Aboard the Baby Bus had 9 touchdowns from those 2 players. They only generated 130 points for the week. And I say only because when you get 9 touchdowns from the first 2 spots, there is definitely some cause for concern that the rest of your lineup basically did absolutely nothing. So there is still concern there, but if you've got guys that can keep you competitive week to week, sometimes that's better than having top to down solid lineup. And then finally on me, because you brought it up, still a long way to go, right? Still a long way to go. But it's finally, hopefully, starting to settle. I knew that, when I had started to make this lineup transformation and switch from kind of heavy running back to heavy receiver, there was going to be a few weeks of rough patches as I tried to literally convert that lineup as extreme as it was. And I knew that there would be some rough patches. You pointed them out. I had rough patches. And now I have to catch up from those rough weeks, as I think things are smoothing out a little bit now. But there's still a long way to go in the game against PTT.
Wait. You just said rough patches? 48-point total is not a rough patch.
Yeah, but that's what you got. Look,
that was awful.
Okay, here's what you have to do,
That's
though.
Where you should have been left. You should have been kicked out of the league. We should have something that says you score less than 50 points in a week, you're kicked out of the league.
All right, here's the thing, though.
What should have happened?
Yeah, look, everyone can. I'm not like saying that one version is better than the other. I saw a lineup that could generate 100 points at its best. All right, I saw a lot of guys that had decent floors but not very high ceilings. And I know OTB, as you know OTB, as Ship knows OTB, and other people have talked about this. You can't win a championship in this league with a team that puts up 105 points. You can't do it. You can stay in contention. You might make the playoffs. You will not win. And so at some point, you have to make the choice. Do you want to be the 5 seed or the 6 seed or whatever it is? Maybe it's the 4 seed because of our playoff picture. But do you want to be kind of the low man going into the postseason and then be a first-round fodder for someone? Or do you want to take a risk and go for it and try to convert your lineup into championship contention? In doing so, I've generated 110 points in 3 of the last 4 weeks. One of those weeks was 48, and that's what's going to happen when you literally try to transform your entire lineup. I had 8 running backs on my lineup, I think, before the transformation. I have like 10 receivers now, right? So when you make that transformation, you're going to be wrong. You're going to have some bad weeks, but I honestly feel like I'm in a better contention now. I may not make it, I probably won't, but I think I'd rather go for it, go for championship or bust, than just be, oh, I made the playoffs, great, and I lost in the first round. Because that is not my goal, as I am sure that is not a lot of people's goals. Who cares about that? It's about getting to the title. And you got to do that by making some moves to get you some high ceiling guys. That's what I think. Anyway. I feel like that's a sarcastic cheer.
I know we've elapsed the time.
Sure.
But I find it interesting where I make the comment about WB and how you've been on his bandwagon. And I point the fact that he's really been successful based on like one player or two players combined exceeding their volume. Then you go and criticize all aboard the baby bus saying that, well, when he only got 130 points, 90 of that came from two players. So that's a faulty setup. Why the hate for Frankie?
I don't have hate.
Let's discuss. I mean, as a commissioner, you should just be applauding up and down and say, you know what, kudos to you, man. Way to rig the system or way to play. But instead, you find ways to knock people down.
Here's what I try to do.
I don't think that's fair to all aboard the baby bus.
Here's what I try to do. Love all aboard the baby bus. He's an Eagles fan, so we have a built-in rivalry there. But as the league office, and this is the issue, is that everyone's going to think I'm critical of their team. All I'm trying to do is paint you an accurate picture of where teams' strengths and weaknesses are. There are strengths and weaknesses in all aboard the baby bus lineup. And I will say this, because here comes a shot in the dark, and Waverman's going to be like, wait, what? All of a sudden I'm getting taken a shot at? This could be true for Waverman, too. DK Metcalf has 36 total catches this year. 36. It just so happens that 7 of them are for touchdowns, and he has like 700 receiving yards. If you look at Waverman's lineup over the last few weeks, it's been somewhat dependent on Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf collectively having big weeks. Same challenge there. For as much as I just told you, and it's true, you need 1 or 2 guys that can just win you weeks, which both Waverman and all aboard the baby bus have. You also need guys that somewhat consistently show up so that when you don't have those winning weeks, like say Sweet Home Chicago, who I mentioned in the power rankings, had 8 players go above 17 or 18 points in the last 2 weeks. 7 different players. You need that too. You need you need 1 or 2 guys that can just go off for you, but you also need some consistency in that lineup too. And so again, I'm not trying to take a shot at all about the baby bus or take a shot at Waverman or even take a shot at myself or Shipwreck. I'm just saying you need both. You need 1 or 2 guys that can kill it for you, but you also need some depth because you can't just rely on them every week.
Well, I saw that as a shot at all of them. So that's messed up, man. That's messed up.
And look, let's put it out there. Wristbands has work to do. I believe this. He had work to do 4 weeks ago, and he should have done it back then. I'll throw that out there right now for him. I'm not saying that he still can't win the championship. I'm saying he had unrivaled depth at certain positions 4 weeks ago, and it looked like he was going to be on top of the world. He had trade offers from multiple teams. I'm not saying that they were great trade offers. I'm not going to grade them because all I get is one side of the story. I'm not sure. What I do know is that now it's different. Now he doesn't have a tight end. Now he's got a weak, maybe 2 weak running back spots where Zeke is right now. And now he's got some injuries and some other issues where receivers kind of look like they've peaked. It's a very different season now. And again, hindsight's 2020. But if Wristbands had looked at converting some of that depth into positions where he did have some weakness, could be a different situation right now. I'll tell you this, I don't think it'd be a race for the fairways. I think he'd be like 7-1 at this point.
Wow. We would be living in such a different world if that was going on.
Oh, we would. So final thoughts, Garcia. We head into week 9, 5 weeks to go. What are you looking for, whether during the week or into next week? What is standing out to you?
What is standing out to me? I mean, what isn't standing out to me? There's no really clear-cut favorite. That's for sure. But we need to keep our eyes on you. We also don't overlook Cincinnati and Gronk and the others down there and greatest show on paper. They're in the hunt, so I think it's still anyone's to take. I, of course, am out of the picture, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm open for business, and open to any and all trade offers. Will I accept them? That's to be debated on. But I'm willing to hear offers and be creative. Listen, it doesn't have to be, just a, draft pick for next year. We can talk about something for next year and then 2022, or 2025, lay it out across the year into, the next year and after that. So as long as we make an effort to make it more work for you when it comes to draft day, because that's what I'm going to enjoy the most when it's like, oh, wait, no, this is Garcia's pick. That's what the head's going to explode, and it's going to be the best Christmas gift in middle of summer for me.
I am not surprised by anything that you just said. I will say that, like we saw from 2 weeks to now, a lot can change very quickly. So wherever you are in the playoff chase, Garcia included, remember, Things can change quickly.
Nice try.
Things might change quickly. Things might change quickly. There is no team out of
I know
it.
what you're doing.
There is no
I know
team
what
out
you're
of it.
doing.
There
I
is
know what
no.
you're doing.
Look,
It's
I'm
not
just
happening.
saying.
Not happening.
I'm just saying it's possible.
It's not.
He's
It's
Garcia
not.
out on the West Coast, Sidebar out on the East Coast. Remember, the trade deadline is a week from this coming Friday, so next Friday.
But mine is this Saturday.
But Garcia's is this Saturday. Enjoy Waiver Wire Wednesday, and we will be back for Week 10.